So a few days ago, Samaria Rice, which is Tamir Rice's mother, who lost her son while he was just playing in the park with a toy gun, and a race soldier pulled up within a second and blew him away. But we had Robert Aaron Long out in Atlanta, killed 8 people, and he was without a scratch. He had guns on him, and he was planning to go to Florida and kill more people, but yet he goes without a scratch. As I tell people, it is a unwritten apartheid system. This is why this happens. But over the years, Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation, to be exact, have been finessing the deaths of black people and been making money. And certain activists, that's all they do is be an activist. How do you be an activist all day? Like, where the money comes from? I mean, now I don't understand if you got a business and then you are an activist too, but where the money come from? I mean, because they dressed a lot better than most black folk. A lot of them be talking to the boule class, in our, community. Where all the money coming from? But we had broke down in the video about Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation that it is ran by the Tides Center, a left-wing white liberal organization that has finessed all the money. In the same video, we talked about where the money was going, and most of the money was going to things about trans things, trans this, trans media, trans, everything about trans justice, everything trans, and Black Lives Matter, which was really originally created in Ferguson, had nothing to do with anybody's sexuality. It had to do with fighting for the lives of black people, because race soldiers are committing a genocide against black people. How do you take something that was created by the true grassroots in the streets to save the lives of black people and turn it into giving the money to someone based off of what they do in their bedroom? That is a total slap and disrespect in the face of black people. But Tamir Rice's mom had finally had enough. Michael Brown's father had enough, and he spoke out a week or so ago, and we covered that. So it was a statement that was put out by Samaria Rice and, Lisa Simpson, the mother of Richard Rishner. Okay, Rishner, I'm sorry. So it starts off: Tamika D. Mallory, Sean King, Benjamin Crump, Lee Merritt, Patrice Cullors, and Melina Abdullah and the Black Lives Matter Global Network need to step down, stand back, and stop monopolizing and capitalizing off of our fight for justice and human rights. Now, we talked about how Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation had got $90 million during the protest of George Floyd, and none of that money has funneled to any of the true victims of white supremacy. They said we never hired them to be our representatives. They say in the fight for justice for our dead loved ones murdered by the police. You're right. It was not a community election. It was a white supremacist election. White supremacy has elected certain people to be your leaders. Listen, black folks, this is your leader. Listen, so CNN's going to call them. MSNBC is going to call them. The local media is going to say, what do you think about this? And make them your de facto leader. Now, you notice that where's the white leaders at? Well, anytime something happens to white people, there's a particular white person or white people come out and says, hey, we're the spokespeople for white people. They don't do that with Hispanics. They don't do that with Asians. They don't do that with no other group, just black folks. OK, so they say that the activists have events in our cities and have not given us anything substantial for our loved ones' images and names on the flyers. Say the attorneys in our fight are also misleading. It say the impacted families. Say in the case of Tamir Rice, it say it was even questionable as to whether Benjamin Crump knew the laws in depth in the state of Ohio. It said I fired him 6 to 8 months into the Tamir Rice case. He said we don't want or need y'all parading in the streets, accumulating donations, platforms, movie deals, he said, etc., off the death of our loved ones, while the families and communities are left clueless and broken. Don't say our loved ones' names, period. That's our truth. And, the the mother, Samaria Rice, every right to say this. Now let's talk about Benjamin Crump a little bit and kind of how it works with him. Benjamin Crump, you know, he doesn't, when he represents these families, they aren't paying him. He's doing it for free. You know how like what you would call a settlement lawyer? Like if a person has a back injury, you go to one of these settlement lawyers and they don't charge you and they say, listen, I'll get my payment in the settlement. So they usually charge 33.5%. It's usually what they'll get on the back end. So that's the reason why Benjamin Crump could go and represent anybody, because he's not charging them anything. Because most black folks don't have no money to be paying Benjamin Crump's hour fee. They don't have that. So he was like, no, don't worry, I'll get it on the back end. Now, let's talk about Benjamin Crump. I want to crunch those numbers real quick. Now, we heard about the settlement for George Floyd's family. And doing the 33.5%, Benjamin Crump was involved with that. That means Benjamin Crump got $9 million out of that settlement. $9 million. That was way more than they would ever paid him if they paid him out of his pocket. $9 million. Breonna Taylor, they got $12 million. Benjamin Crump got about $4 million out of that. So between those two cases alone, Benjamin Crump got about $13 million. A lot of people getting paid off of the deaths of black people. Now the families, you know, they're getting some settlements, but then they move on to the next case and the next case and the next case. And unfortunately, because of the racism and white supremacy, there will always be, until this wicked system ends, there will always be a Benjamin Crump around. Because, you know, 1 minute we could get mad at him, yes, but maybe if the white supremacy ends and black folks stop getting killed unjustly, then there wouldn't be no Benjamin Crumps to come around, right? He would have to go find something else to do. I say get rid of the white supremacy and put, you know, the Benjamin Crumps out of business. But this country hate so much of black folk. We have to understand, if you take away anti-black racism, you're literally taking away the foundation of America. America's foundation is built off of anti-black racism. So she continues to say, we demand accountability from everyone mentioned with the following demands. Number one, step down from the spotlight of our fights. Do not do any more interviews, make any more t-shirts, or hold any more press conferences or events in the names of our loved ones. They do not use our loved ones to market any events. Stop clout chasing and ambulance chasing these families. Well, the first thing you can do to stop them from using your name, your son's name, is sue them. Sue them. That's what I'll do. Sue them. Matter of fact, trademark your son's name. Trademark it. And if they use it in an event, you can sue them for anything, for trademark infringement. You could, because they didn't have the right to use your son's name. Listen, if I saw people using my dead son's name and getting a finesse, oh no. First of all, I'm going to sue for that. And then I'm a trademark it. Yeah, I'm a trademark it because I want to protect my son's name, because y'all can't just be using his name out here. But what they'll do, that once they get sued, they'll stop using that name and they'll use somebody else's name. And that needs to be standard operating procedure for all the parents and families who lost someone. If you really want to put a stop to the vultures in the left wing and also the black collaborators, start trademarking your family's name. Number two, Black Lives Matter Los Angeles should pay me, Lisa Simpson, as I am the mother of Richard Risher. They had a press conference for the 49-day encampment when my son, Richard Risher, first got killed. They campaigned to raise $5,000 for my son's funeral. I never received one penny of the money they raised. They kicked me off the encampment because they did not like how I chose to fight for my son. Wow. That's Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation, one of the 16 chapters. You raised the money in that woman's son's name, didn't give her the money, didn't do anything, and you kicked her out at the same time. Boy, y'all being exposed for real. And it's good. It is a good thing, because all the wickedness is being uncovered. And unfortunately, we got black folks participating in the wickedness. This is why we deal with the oppression. We have more turncoats in the black community who's willing to side with white supremacy. You know, everybody is talking about right now, how there are certain Asians that want to go along with white supremacy. But why don't we talk about a little bit more at times the black folks who side with white supremacy? They side with them against us. And this is what they do. And it's despicable that you would use people that's victims of white supremacy to get a bag and then treat the families like crap, but you getting paid. That's sick. Number 3, financial assistance for the Samaria Rice Foundation from all who you exploited Samaria Rice. Tamika Mallory, Sean King, Benjamin Crump, and the Black Lives Matter Global Network, Samaria Rice, purchased the building in 2018 and it needs remodeling. Operations funds, bulletproof windows for the lower level, HVAC cooling and heating system, commercial flooring, restrooms, furniture, piano repairs, new internal doors, etc. Okay? So basically, that money that Black Lives Matter Global Network collected, they need to pass a couple of million over there to get that done. They say number 4, housing funds for Lisa Simpson as I am battling homelessness with my current children. My son Richard Risher was killed by the LAPD and I was offered no assistance from Black Lives Matter. It said I am currently living in a motel with my children and need funds for housing. Now they say you can support the Samaria Rice Foundation, make our requested donations there at SamariaRiceFoundation.org, or they say you can send personal donations directly to them at $ Samaria Rice and $ Lisa Lee 693. You know, Black Lives Matter, you know, like people say, it's messed up. Maybe another name need to come up to describe, because people say, well, I support Black Lives Matter, the movement, but I don't support the organization. Well, usually if you can't support an organization with a certain name, then maybe using corporate America, they change the name because the name is getting bad or the name is too hot right now in the country. I think another name needs to come up. That's just really what it needs to be. That, and then when that, but then also protect yourself by, when you come up with this new name, trademark it. That way these folks can backdoor and create a nonprofit, which Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation now is nonprofit. And they can collect money in the same name. So while y'all out there getting beat up, shot, and killed by the race soldiers, and people say, yeah, I like to donate to Black Lives Matter because they fighting for the community. Because people see the movement on TV, but they give the money to the organization, and the people in the movement gets nothing because it's general people. Like, they don't have no Black Lives Matter sign-up sheets. People just come up and say, hey, man, Black Lives Matter. It's right. You know, I mean, the mantra is right, but unfortunately, those on the left wing of white supremacy have came in, muddied the waters, used sellouts just to get a bag, and they going along with it. And that's sad. That is utterly sad that that's going on. And then, you know, when this statement was put out, you know, Sean King in particular was talking about how he's not going to stop discussing, you know, the issues that's going on. Well, you know, when you're being called out by name, you need to kind of address that a little bit different, Sean King. You understand? You know, and people have, you know, questioned him for years, you know, on some certain things. You know, people was basically accusing him of being a Rachel Dolezal, you know, and he really didn't like answer it per se. He showed his picture from when he was in school, but he really didn't answer it. Like, he said he is black. I was like, okay, well, everybody was like, well, where's the picture of your dad? You know, like, if you got a picture of your dad and your mom together back in the day. I mean, I understand stuff don't work out, and, you know, people, some dads don't want to see their kid or whatever, right? We get it. We understand it. But could you find something? You know, maybe you look like him. We don't know, but you didn't put out anything. Because one thing, especially like, well, the people see me, you never gonna question who I am, you know. But when it comes to things like that, especially when you get in the fight for black people, you got to kind of let people know who you are. I mean, if you are a Rachel Dolezal, and I'm not saying that you are, you know, at least Rachel Dolezal, you know, she was doing some fighting for black folks. The only thing that she messed up on is just, you know, the lying part. But if she was just being truthful and upfront and still do what she was doing, she actually would have been okay. Nobody wouldn't have had an issue with her on that. And of course, it was them folks exposed her. It wasn't even black folks exposed her. But now let me know what you think, you know, about this particular story. And, you know, it's sad that everybody getting a bag off of this, and then the people that need it, you know, and I'm not saying they need a bag, but the people that actually went through it not getting nothing at all. That's sick. But leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about this particular story, and make sure to download our new African Diaspora News Channel app that's in Google Play and the App Store.